Hey my beautiful friends, David Essery here on a bit of a walk and talk today to break down the subject of calling in universal support. Quite what that means, what support is available to us and how we can do this for the highest good for ourselves and for others. Now we're just going to go for a little bit of a walk here through the beautiful New Forest near where I live and just see where the journey takes us. So here we go. So I may jump back and forth a little bit today actually between on location here and my studio because I want to read you a couple of quotes as well from a book, and it's a bit awkward for me to do that whilst I'm out and about, but if you haven't noticed, it's a glorious day today and I wanted to be out in the sun, so here we are. So calling in universal support. Now it's going to be no surprise to anyone to say that life on Earth in general, but in particular since 2012 and this ascension process began, has been incredibly challenging. We have faced circumstances beyond measure, and we live in a world where quite frankly feels like it's crumbling around us, and that's because it is. We are breaking down the old paradigm to make way for the new. And you know, we are facing our absolute darkest shadows on pretty much a daily basis. And it's a roller coaster. It is hard work. And it doesn't matter who you are in this world, whether it's me here standing behind a camera, whether it's you guys out there watching, whether you're awake, whether you're not awake, we are all involved in the same energies. There is no escaping this process. It's happening to all of us. And it's just part of the journey, and it's how we apply ourselves to that really kind of dictates how smoothly we flow through this process. But the good news is that we are not alone. And when I say we're not alone, we really are not alone. The amount of support around us right now is incredible. In fact, I was talking about this during my solstice workshop in June, and we took a moment in that workshop just to connect with our hearts and to hopefully not smack the microphone, and to just feel the incredible amount of energy, the incredible beings that are around us that are supporting us through this journey. And it's truly remarkable, and really an important factor, I think, in being able to thrive in these situations, because it is possible despite how it feels. At least that's what I'm told anyway. It doesn't feel like it sometimes, but it is possible. Melchizedek's been talking about it, about thriving, not surviving. And in order to do this, we can't do it alone. You know, ascension, I've said this before for slightly different reasons, but it's not a one-man job. It's not a me against the world. It's a team sport. And we have a plethora, I love that word, of support around us to help us do it. Now, what does that mean? Okay, so just a few examples of this. First of all, you have your spirit guides. So these are beings who have had life usually on Earth, but not always. There are many spirit guides out there for people that perhaps have come from other star systems. So don't be surprised if you connect with yours and they don't look quite how you expect them to be. But these beings, they haven't necessarily achieved ascension, but they have gone through multiple lifetimes and they have developed certain skills or wisdom which are relevant to you and your life path, and therefore they can help and support you throughout your journey. And you could have a number of these. There's no fixed amount that you can and can't have, at least not that I'm aware of. You're not generally aware of people having tons, but I've heard up to kind of 5-ish is quite common. So these are guides who, whether you're aware of it or not, you are in constant communication with them. Quite often, if things just pop into your head out of nowhere, one of the main sources for what this could be your spirit guides. Another one Another source for this could be your personal angel. Now, every single one of us has our own angel who is assigned to us at, in fact, the moment of conception, the moment our soul enters the physical state, which may not be conception, maybe it's a little bit later, but certainly very, very early on in the process. And they are there to look out for us, to love us, to support us, and to guide us throughout our journey. And they, once again, they communicate with us constantly, whether we're aware of it or not. They pour our love to us, they encourage us, they guide us to the steps that we need to take in order to fulfill our pathway. I'm just going to switch the camera around a little bit whilst we go through this really beautiful spot. And they're just always there, they're ever present, and they love us unconditionally. And making the connection with our guides and our angels can be such a profound experience in terms of changing the way that we perceive the world and about how we perceive our journey, because all of a sudden we realise we're not alone. These beings in particular are there in our fields, within our aura, at all times. They never ever leave our side. The only possible exception, actually, I might add to that, is that sometimes your guides, sorry, camera going funny. Sometimes your guides might be there for you for a particular part of your journey, you know, for the circumstances that you're going through. And actually, once you've overcome that, it's possible they may not be able to kind of provide support for the rest of your pathway. So they may leave and another one may come in. But for as long as they are assigned to you, they will always be there with you at all times. Now, going beyond this, we have a number of other kind of what I would call higher beings of the light, or spirit, or divinity, or the hierarchy. There's a number of ways that they are kind of generally referred to. But these are basically all beings of light, beings of good, that are here to, amongst other things in general, assist us on our journey. Now, in particular, this includes the angels. So you have your personal angel, but the number of angels out there in the universe is immeasurable. These are beings born of God, pure beings of light. They generally start around the 7th dimensional kind of frequency, and there's lots of different types of them, and they kind of move up through the hierarchy, through the dimensions, into higher states. For instance, the seraphim are 12th dimensional angels, but there are a number of them. And angels themselves, they are born to be of service. This is their sole reason for being, to be here to support us, and, you know, whatever else they need to be of service to God. That's what they're here to do. And so, I'm just going to pause for a second just as I come up to some people. Good morning. Hey. Sorry about that. So, yes, so as I was saying, angels, they are here to be of service. They are here to help us however they can do. But there's some tricky things around what they are and aren't allowed to do. And I think at this point I'm going to jump back to the studio, and I want to read you some quotes from a book called The Beloved Archangels Speak. Now, I know a number of you, if you've been following me, may be familiar with this book because my brother Tim Wilde and I created a workshop series a few years back where we were kind of breaking down the wisdom in this incredible book of channelings, and running some meditations around them. It was such a beautiful experience and such a joy to do. And there's so much wisdom to glean from them. But in particular, there's a chapter from Archangel Uriel, who is the Archangel of ministration. he essentially is here to, above all, to be of service. And there's some really, really beautiful quotes in there about him, about the angels, and about how they work. So I'm just going to jump back to the studio now and read you those, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back in the studio, and here is the quote from Archangel Uriel that I wanted to read you. Of all the angels that people the inner atmospheres around your planet Earth, the greatest legions are of Lord Michael, our Prince, and of myself. We are the servants of God, and it is our great opportunity and joy in the universal scheme to minister unto the sons and daughters of God, who have woven out of thought and feeling certain painful experiences, and who, in their extremity, sooner or later, invoke the superior power for assistance to extricate themselves. We are those legions who answer the calls and the prayers from the least of men. In graded order, the angels of ministration stretch from the heart of the central sun itself, down through the astral and psychic realm, even making a canopy of muted light around the compound. Through the avenue of the silent watchers, we are alerted the moment the flame in the heart stirs and the silent "God help us" arises from within the consciousness. At that time, according to the requirement, is one or more members of our legion sent to bring grace and assistance to the life strings requiring succor. The angels of ministration are the messengers of the Most High. They are those who embody the mystic quality of grace. Then he goes on a little bit later to say, the assistance that is rendered to the mankind of earth by the angelic host is very little understood. There is a cosmic law which is inexorable and unchanging, which requires that the call must come from the octave in which the need is felt. If this were not self-evident truth, long since those of us who live in love and mercy would have lifted into light mankind and all shadowed creation. But through self-conscious free will, the life stream and the consciousness within itself must apply for assistance. Then, on the return beam of that very energy comes the radiation. The presence and the power of the cosmic beings, the ascended masters, the angelic host, the mighty devas, according to the requirement of the hour. The great brooding presences that take up their abode over large cities similar to the one in which you are presently living are constantly watching for those beams, those flickers of light which pass out of the soul, which signifies an SOS to the heavenly hosts for assistance. These beings, then measuring the need, make the call to one of the directors of members of the angelic host in our sphere. That director gives the mission to an angel who is developed sufficiently to hold within his feeling world the particular quality of radiation, which is the answer to the prayer. That quality of radiation stimulates the flame within the heart and the soul of the supplicant, and as the two meet, the supplicant himself is able to magnetize the answer. The answer comes according to his acceptance. Powerful words from Archangel Uriel, and so much wisdom in there. It speaks in a way that's not so common to you and I these days, but if you break it down, which I will continue to do as I get back out on the path, there is a lot that we can take from that. Okay, we're back on the path now, just coming up to the ocean behind me. So, really, some of the important things to take away from what Uriel said in those channelings is about the requirement for us essentially to call in the universal support. Because we've got free will, angels are not allowed to intervene in our lives without permission. And the exception to that is to kind of predetermined events. So there may be certain parts that are part of your life path, pre-contracted events where they're supposed to help you, and it's been arranged perhaps before you even got incarnated. But in general, day-to-day lives, they're not allowed to intervene unless we call upon them. And so this is the important thing to take away from this video, is that if you want to work with the angels, we have to welcome them in. And by doing so, we essentially give them permission in our lives. I've heard lots of people say that, you know, in order to work with the angels, you have to call them in, and then you have to give them permission. My personal feeling is that by calling them in, you are giving permission, because you wouldn't be calling them in for asking for help if you weren't giving them permission to do so. And how do we do that? It's really, really easy. As with most of spirituality, intent is everything. So all we have to say is, angels, please help me with this thing. You might want to say, let's say maybe you're having a situation with your family that you're finding quite challenging. You might just say, I invoke the angels to assist me to resolve the situation to the highest outcome. And I'm going to break down quite a lot what that means in a minute. But you might just say, please, angels, help me. Or you may just say, please, God, help me. And that's what, you know, Uriel mentioned in his quotes. Because angels essentially are the messengers, that they are the servants of God. And therefore, if you invoke support, invoke help from God, essentially it's the angels that deliver it most of the time. And, you know, they will be dispatched however needed in order to help resolve the problem. That's the other thing that Archangel Uriel said in the quote, was that, hey doggo, there's a doggo who's come to say hello to me. If you can see him down here, he's a beautiful guy. Just keep on moving, so I've got people behind me. An angel of kind of matching resonance. So say for instance you're calling in protection. Okay. If you're calling in protection, you might be sent one of Archangel Michael's angels, even if you called in Uriel for support. Or if you are perhaps calling in support to clear the energies in a particular place, you might be sent Archangels of the Violet Flame. I'm just going to pause just for a second as I pass some people here. Good morning. Okay. And it goes like that. Whoever is the most kind of pertinent beings to assist us at that time is who's going to join us. And essentially, it's as simple as that. You've given them permission, you've called in their support, and they will intervene however needed for your situation. Now, what I said when I was kind of breaking that down, I'm just getting to the ocean now. I'll just switch the camera around so you can see me. And let's head down, shall we? It's a bit of a ramble, so you may see me take a tumble here, but hey, that'll be a good laugh for everyone involved. So here we go. Yeah, so what I was saying a minute ago about when I did the invocation, I asked them to help resolve the situation for the highest good. Now, what that means is, you know, we may be in a situation and maybe we're facing something challenging and we're like, I just want this situation to go away. I don't want to face it. I don't want to deal it. Just take it away. But actually, the situation may be arising. Sorry, I lost the camera a little bit. See if I can adjust this. Sorry for the technical problems. We're going the wrong day. Here we go. That's a bit better, isn't it? So, yeah, maybe we're facing this situation because there's something that we can learn from it. Maybe by standing up and facing that challenge, we release a fear that we've had that perhaps was the reason why we manifested the situation in the first place. Or perhaps it leads to something else coming into our lives, or perhaps letting something go from our lives. But that wouldn't happen unless we resolve the situation. And so by calling in the support for the highest good, essentially you are asking the angels to intervene in a way that will help resolve the situation for you for the best possible outcome. You know, if you are meant to learn something from the situation, they will then help you to learn that thing from the situation and to resolve the whole thing and settle the problem so you can move past it. This is particularly important if you're calling in support for other people. If you perhaps seeing someone else having a hard time and you want to help them, calling in the angels to help them is a great way of doing it. But you need to ensure that you're doing it for the highest good, or in particular, under the law of grace. Now, what that means by invoking something for the law, under the law of grace, which is a universal law that basically says that if something's invoked under that it will be for their highest good. That's kind of automatically included, so that you're not interfering with their situations and perhaps causing them to bypass a situation that would ultimately help them. And if you're doing this for other people, it can be a bit challenging, because actually you can end up taking on their karma for that situation if you resolve it on their behalf. So, camera's going a bit funny again, so I'm going to switch it back. So it's really important, if you're doing any work for other people, whether that's just sending in support or offering healing or anything like that, that you're doing it under the law of grace for the highest good. And really, that's as simple as it is for working with angels. We often, we can get hung up on people saying, oh yeah, calling the angels for that. And you're like, well, what does that mean? It literally means calling in the angels. It's a bit like shouting to your partner in another room to ask for help. You just do it. You just ask for help and then trust that they will come, because they will do. And this is the incredible thing about angels. And I mentioned before that they are beings of service. They are here to help us. Now, if you go back about 100 years or so, knowledge of the angels and the ascended masters, which I'll come on to in a minute, as we know it now, was pretty thin on the ground. Obviously we had accounts of Jesus and the Buddha and stuff having ascended, but not so much a connection with them after the fact. It was really through the incredible work of a few amazing prophets and channels who, like the ones in the beloved Archangels Speak book that I read you a while ago, who channeled these messages from these beings and shared it with the world, that really introduced us to the possibility and expanded the vibration on this planet and the vibration available to us. Before this point, and the angels actually speak about this in that book, the angels were essentially watching humanity going through some of the absolute most challenging times it's ever faced, and sitting on their hands, desperate to help. These are beings of unconditional love. All they want to be able to do is to help you to make your life better, but they can't do it without permission. And so these beings have essentially been handcuffed, unable to help us for so long. And this is the great thing about working with the angels, is that if we call them in, it's not like we're burdening them. They are so incredibly grateful for the opportunity to help us. They love it. They will take every opportunity that they can do to be of service, because that's what they're born for. That's what they're created for. And so there really is nothing too big or too small to ask the angels for. So, the classic example is the parking angels. How many of you out there do this? Let me know if you're in the comments. If you're in a really busy place and you can't find a parking space, you ask the angels for help. I've done it so many times. In fact, actually, this was kind of like my first introduction to the angels when I met my wife, was that she started calling in the parking angels whenever we struggled to find a space. And every single time, without fail, we would find one really quickly afterwards. There is nothing really too big or too small. That's takeaway number 2 for this session. Just call on them, and nothing too big or too small. Work with them. And the more that you do so, the more that you'll increase your connection with them and be able to connect with them much, much easier. Now, just going back a little bit, there are many more types of higher beings out there. Of course, with the angels and the higher frequency ones, you have the archangels. So we were listening to those quotes earlier from Archangel Uriel. And You can think of an archangel essentially as a higher level angel, but the heavens really, it's weird to think of it like this, but it's like a hierarchy. If you imagine like a big company and you have like workers and managers and directors, etc., 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 the archangels are like the managers because they have probably trillions of angels operating under them. Archangel Uriel and Archangel Michael, as you said in that book, have like the highest number of angels available to provide assistance. The number that they have working under them is immeasurable. And so if you want higher level support, rather than just calling in the angels, you can call in the archangels. And there's a number of these that all have particular alignments to kind of different things that maybe they might be able to help you with a little bit easier than someone else. Of course, if you just call in God, then whatever the best person to help you is the one that's going to come through. And I hope you can hear me okay. The water's quite loud. I'm just going to get away from it in a moment. I apologise if I'm coughing because I'm talking quite loud because that's so loud. But after you've got as well as the archangels, you can also call on the ascended masters. Now, the ascended masters are beings who have been in physical incarnation, just like you and I, have lived a life on planet Earth or perhaps another planet somewhere else in the universe. And they have achieved ascension. They have returned to the light. They have reactivated the Christ self within them, and they've become their God self. And, you know, the most famous examples that we are aware of these are Jesus and the Buddha. But there's been countless others throughout time, you know, Merlin, Saint Germain, Mother Mary. There's just so many of them. And if you watch the channel, if you've seen my videos, you'll have heard me channeling from many of them over the time. And because these are people that have been here and done it and ascended, they are so amazing to work with because they understand our circumstances. It's very hard for an angel to understand what we're going through because they've never been in physical incarnation. They are pure beings of the light, as opposed to, say, an ascended master who has been here and done it, and therefore they have been through the challenges of the ego and all of that other stuff that goes along with it. And so they can be really, really great to work with because they're really understanding, and they have developed the wisdom that is required in order to overcome the challenges of life in physical, the challenges that we're all facing. And yeah, that's the incredible thing about this series that you'll have heard me talking about over and over, the Divine Restitution of the Star Within, the 6-month course that I'm running at the moment, because we're getting real wisdom direct from the masters to help us to overcome these challenges, to help improve our lives and to take control. It's just been so amazing so far. And there are so many of these beings of light. It's been said that there are currently more ascended masters than there are people alive on Earth right now. There's over 8 billion ascended masters, that means. That is a pretty incredible thought, especially considering, you know, when we think of the ascended masters, quite often we maybe think of like 20 odd, like the famous ones. And then, you know, maybe a few other ones kind of scattered around. But there are so many of them. When I've done private channelings for people, for soul geometries and things like that, a number of times an ascended master that I've never heard of, that I've never worked with, comes forward for that person. Because they've got just the same knowledge and wisdom as all the other ascended masters, because they achieved their ascension. But perhaps their experiences of their life are similar to the one of the person that I'm channeling for, and therefore they step through in support of that. Or perhaps they're stepping into overlightning their journey to assist them. You know, that's another aspect of the universal support that we have available. Many of us, if not all of us, have a higher being who is overlighting us. And this isn't quite the same as a guide or a personal angel, because they're not there all the time, but they just connect in every now and then to just give us a little nudge along our journey, or to be there to love and to support us as we move forward. And there are tons of other types as well. There is just so much support available to us out there. It is unfathomable. But I just wanted to touch on a few of the main types and just really illustrate how easy it is to work with them. If you want to work specifically with the Ascended Masters or a particular one, just as I did with the angels, it's as simple as calling on them by name and asking them to step forward and to help us in this regard. And this can bring truly profound changes to our life. People have had experiences where their lives have literally changed overnight because there's been some kind of being who has stepped in and offered them support. These are most kind of typically, these really big moments like this are known generally as divine interventions. But even in the smaller stuff, and maybe not be as extreme as that, they help us constantly and just have the most profound ability to change our lives. But when we receive something like a divine intervention, you hear stories about this. It's like the kind of moments where someone hits absolute rock bottom and then they have this incredible spiritual awakening. Perhaps they're visited by an angel, or just some kind of miraculous event happens in their life. And from that point forward, everything turns around. These are divine interventions. This is the point where the hierarchy is stepping in and saying, no, we need to set things right. We need to get you back on the path, or, you know, we need to get you over this situation, or whatever it may be in that life, that they can just step in and change things. Now, the power of an angel, if they could do, if they had permission to, they could change this world in an instant, just like that. They could remap this world, they could dissolve the lower frequencies, they could purge the darkness, they could do all of this stuff. But of course, they're restricted by doing so because of the law of free will and the paths that we have in this situation ourselves. You know, we don't, as much as we've got the support throughout this planet doesn't ascend by them just doing it. This planet ascends by us making the change, by us stepping into our power, by us recognizing who we are and standing up to the current systems in this world and saying no. That is how we change this world. And that's what we're doing. This year is all about our own personal power, about mastering. You know, you will have heard me talking about it all year. In fact, even since the end of last year, talking about this change that's coming and the incredible support that we've got available to us to help us do that. Bear with me a second where I get stone out of my shoe. Random, I know, but these videos are what they are. We're on the road and we see where it takes us. Now, the Lionsgate, for instance, the opportunity that we're being presented with is completely unprecedented to absolutely transform our lives. That didn't happen a few years ago. That has never happened, in fact, throughout the history of incarnated life. That's what Melchizedek has told me. The opportunity we're being given right now is just unbelievable. And this is the level of support that we've got around us. You know, and you know, just to lead into something, I'm running a workshop this Thursday, tomorrow night in fact, on the 10th, called Calling Forth the Divine Intervention. And it is just that. We have been given permission by the higher teams of light to basically connect with them and call in the hierarchy, the teams of light, divinity, spirit, the angels, the ascended masters, whatever you want to call it, or whatever it needs to be, to transform the situations of our life, to break down the old patterns and to overcome the challenges and step forward. That in itself is unprecedented. As I said before, you know, these divine interventions happen, but they're rare. very, very special moments at particular people's lowest points. But we're being given an opportunity to just call one in and have that level of support. And that is how important the times are right now. You know, the amount of support that we've got is a reflection of the time in the world that we're living in. Because we are trying to change this planet, and it's up to us to do it, as I was just saying. We're not going to do it by just sitting back and hoping that things change. We have to believe in that change, and we have to make that change happen. And to do that, we have to be at our top of our game. We have to be standing in our personal power. As Melchizedek's been talking about for the last few months, we have to reclaim our light. We have to reactivate our gifts and our talents and stand tall in our true and mighty selves. That's how we change this world. And that's what we're doing. That's what Melchizedek said this month, again, in that message, that we are doing it, that we are pushing forward, and that we're going to achieve this. With their help, with the support of the hierarchy around us, we are going to do this, and we are going to change this world together. No more separation, no more barriers, no more stupid arguments over a border of land or the colour of a skin or a different language. We are going to overcome all of these challenges. We are going to step through the ego, and we are going to come together as one people in love and unity, and we are going to change this world. That's what this process is about, and that's why we have the level of support around us that we do. It is a truly magnificent time to be living in. And I've waffled on for quite a bit of time now. So if you're still watching, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming to me on this beautiful journey this morning down to the ocean. And thank you for all of the work that you do, for your determined effort and commitment to self-actualization, to step into your true power so that we can change this world, for all of the light and all the love that you share and send out there. You're awesome, you're doing amazing, and I love you, and I thank you for everything. If you would like to be a part of this incredible opportunity, this calling forth of a divine intervention that they've laid out before us, I'm going to pop all of the details in the description down below. If you're watching this video later, the same link will take you straight to a recording, which is always just as powerful. We all come to these things at the time we're meant to. And I'm so excited to share this with you. It's going to be so beautiful, and what an incredible opportunity. Thank you again so much for watching. If you've liked this, please do hit the like button. It makes a massive difference to us here on the channel. And if you've enjoyed it and you want more meditations, channeled messages, and general spiritual walks and talks like this, please do hit the subscribe button as well. We'd love to have you as a part of our small community. Thank you again so much for watching. From my heart to yours, sending you so much love, and I'll see you again soon. Bye. Okay, so I just got back in my studio and went to move the bundle of soundproofing that sat on the chair, which usually covers my door, and found a cat sleeping in there. So I'm going to let him rest whilst we read this. On itself, down through the astral and psychic realm, even making a canopy. Hey, kitty. Hey, boy. That didn't quite work out. We are alerted the moment the flame in the heart stirs and the silent God help us arises from within the consciousness. I'm sorry, this is a complete disaster. I might just start this again. Hey, my boy.